Cosplay Sanctuary. This is your host, ScottyB. Follow us here on YouTube for weekly videos on cosplay fandoms, interviews, tips for you to build your cosplay brand, and of course, always a safe space for you to share your stories and what motivates you to stay active within the community and contribute to our cause to bring cosplayers together in this space. Back with me this week, the only cosplay host that calls herself Astrovoid Cosplay, the gifted and gracious Astrovoid Cosplay.
Hello.
So this week, we are going to talk a little bit about things that get us excited about cons and going to conventions and what's the big deal with conventions and how do conventions and cosplayers fit together and why cons are so expensive. Everything at the convention, including meeting people that you want to see, has really skyrocketed in price. Like the Reed Pop sort of gateway of seeing fun people and interacting and getting the pictures and everything has really become kind of a sub-industry of this whole the whole cosplay adventure. Do you feel like that's a thing?
I do feel like, in recent years, the popularity for Comic-Cons have just kind of skyrocketed. And so, of course, where there's demand and supply and that whole situation. So, where there's money to be made, people will make it and they'll take advantage of situations to do that. So I feel like prices have definitely gone up. It also depends on who you're meeting or who you're trying to get an autograph from, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think that it has definitely inflated over the course of time. And I mean, not just like con tickets or meet and greet tickets or anything like that, but you also have to think about, hotel costs and where you're going to stay and how far away you'll be from the venue and, food. And on top of all that, your actual cosplays. So it becomes harder and harder to go to more and more cons as time goes on. So you really have to be choosy and pick and choose where you go. Are you gonna go to like smaller ones but more, or are you gonna go to bigger ones but less of them? So
yeah, I think even like trying to hit a bunch of regional conventions is getting harder and harder just because it's so expensive or you have to like find a bunch of people every time and try and split costs with them. That's really hard to coordinate too. It seems to snowball. And I remember once upon a time I wanted to do 4 a year until I found out exactly how expensive they were getting. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can do regional, I can go here and I can fly here and I can do, but then yeah, you buy the costumes and a lot of people bring one for every day or even more,
Yep.
It's just incredible to think of, just all of the expense that goes into just that component. But then, yeah, you have to eat, you have to have a place to stay, you've got Ubers, you've got, it snowballs. And really, it's almost like you have to work constantly.
yeah, if you're lucky. And there's sometimes where you can kind of get around certain things, but that's only if you're popular enough or if the conventions ask you to be there, and you can kind of get around that cost. But then you have to worry about, again, like where you're going to stay and stuff like that. And it can get really complicated. And of course, beyond that, for most people, at least like myself, not only walking around the con is fun, but being able to sometimes get things while you're there. And that's another expense, not one that is, necessary, of course, but if you see something that you want and you can't get it because you had to spend so much money to get into the place, it's...
If you are going to a convention over a weekend, you're staying for more than one day, go into the con floor on Sunday when the vendors are starting to pack everything up, because that's usually when you can get deals. Or if there's still things left, generally they will drop their prices on things just because they don't want to have to take everything back with them, because it's a lot of hauling back and forth. They just want to get things sold. So sometimes you can find deals that way if you're on like the last day of the con, but otherwise sometimes it's quite a bit more expensive than finding things online, for sure, just because of all the expense that the vendors have to take on just to be there. I mean, just renting the space is crazy expensive. And then, having all your stuff, having to have people there to watch your stuff, to interact. You've got all the sales expense. So really, you really have to be careful and choosy about that. I mean, I've heard a lot of people going with Airbnbs now over hotels or staying on venue because it's just way less expensive to be a few miles away and then just take an Uber in. Much easier time, and usually, it's just as good as staying at the hotel. I've had a couple of like so hotel experiences at cons. Like usually the hotels are kind of just overwhelmed anyways because there's so many people there. I've had trouble renting cars. I've had, just a lot of like noise outside the room and stuff like that you really can't do anything about because it's just so widespread. And people do kind of want to go there and enjoy themselves, and they do well into the morning. So it's just a lot of things. Really be careful about how long you stay, plan things out. It's a lot of people talk about con crunches. I think we've talked about con crunches before. And the one thing that you really don't want to crunch is what you do at the convention. So just make sure that you planned out the things that you want to do and that you're there enjoying yourself, and that it isn't just like a big chore, because it seems like a lot of things can become that way with cosplay if you're not careful.
It can get a bit tiring, especially if, for some reason you were getting ready that morning and maybe things weren't going the way you planned. And, sometimes it can really suck to walk in with a sour attitude and then things just go wrong. So I always try to just refresh before I go in, even if the day went wrong for some reason, and just kind of start over, because I know that I'll enjoy myself more if I do when I'm there. But also going off of, what you had said earlier about the, going in on the con floor on Sunday. I usually suggest that, but I suggest when you first get there to kind of scope everything out. If you see limited edition things or things that are only one of them, things that that you can't get anywhere else. For instance, like my it's a portrait painting of Stanley. It's a canvas. There's only one of them that existed there, and that's one of those things where it's like, if you wait till Sunday, it might be gone. Mm-hmm. So if you see something like that and you really want it, I would suggest getting it. But if you see things where you're like, oh, that's really cool, but there's like 20 of them, then it's like, okay, maybe wait till Sunday and then see if you can snag one of those deals. I've gotten quite a few things like that. And it really does help save money and time.
And of course, not every episode, folks, is going to be a really long episode with a lot of detail. This is going to be one of those episodes we really just wanted to share a few tips and tricks and give you my take, and of course Astra with her take on getting around some of these more expensive things that can go into conventions, because I think they are coming back pretty soon. And yes, definitely enjoy yourselves, but be wary of the expenses and plan things out. So with that, Astra, would you like to take us out of the show?
So thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to find us anywhere on our socials, all of our links will be down in the description. Again, thank you guys for being here. Please make sure you could comment and like, subscribe, and do all the things that you do on YouTube to help us out. That'd be very appreciated. And again, just thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.